To help her white moonlight pass the assessment, my top agent wife made me a live target. Don't worry, Yinzhou has steady aim, he won't hurt you. I trembled with fear, so she welded me to the target post with thick iron. Be good, stay still. If Yinzhou fails the assessment, he'll be sent to northern Myanmar. The white moonlight secretly replaced foam bullets with real ones, shooting through my entire body, leaving me in a pool of blood. Just as my wife came to check on me, he fainted at the sight of blood, so my wife abandoned me with my bullet-riddled body and rushed him to the hospital. I was rescued, turned away, and never looked back. Yet I heard that to make me return to her, my wife shot herself 99 times. I was tied to the target post, my limbs firmly welded with thick iron. Even my neck was restrained, making it difficult to breathe. With 5 or 6 bullet holes in my body, I was pale and trembling in pain. A distant voice, cold and furious. Don't move. How many times do I have to tell you? I could only grit my teeth and endure, answering, okay. Another shot followed immediately, violently piercing my left shoulder, and I coughed up blood. 5 minutes ago, I had come to the base with a cake to celebrate Song Tongxi's triumphant return. By chance, I caught her intimately embracing Bai Yinzhou, teaching him how to shoot. I gave a light cough, shyly announcing my presence to Song Tongxi. Unexpectedly, Bai Yinzhou pouted and pleaded to use me as a live target. I just can't get into the right state. After all, a scarecrow isn't a real person. I immediately refused, shaking my head and waving my hands frantically. Song Tongxi frowned hesitantly, until she saw the scar on Bai Yinzhou's hand from when he was injured protecting her, and her heart instantly softened. Yinzhou's hand was injured protecting me. That's why he can't hold the gun steady. Don't be petty, learn to be generous like him. She repeatedly assured me they were using an air gun, and the bullets were made of foam, which couldn't hurt anyone. Only then did I reluctantly agree to stand at the bullseye. But I am after all a living person, who breathes and pants, and also trembles in fear when bullets hit my face. What's wrong with you? You keep moving around. Are you deliberately trying to cause trouble? I patiently explained that I have post-traumatic stress from childhood, and gunshots trigger my panic attacks. Brother Zhuxian, it's okay if you don't want to. It's my poor marksmanship. It's fine. Worst case, I'll just get hit by the boss. Bai Yinzhou rolls up his sleeve revealing whip marks, holds back tears as he packs up to leave. Song Tongxi suddenly becomes agitated, grabs me, and ties me to the target post. I struggle desperately, crying and begging, saying my fractured ribs haven't healed, begging her not to tie it so tight. But Song Tongxi, in her frenzy, won't lease. 10 at all. When you were injured before, Yinzhou endured his hand pain to bring you nutritious meals. What was your attitude? I froze. Back then, Bai Yinzhou pushed me down, causing bone fracture. Yet he slandered me as a male green tea asterisk trying to frame him. If he wasn't my wife's life-and-death combat companion, I wouldn't see him again at all. Song Tongxi's arm veins bulged as she gripped my shoulders tightly, her tone menacing. If he fails the assessment, he'll be sent to northern Myanmar. Please be kind. If he goes, you won't have it easy either. I laughed. Even with him here, my life was already miserable, let alone if he left. Just as I was about to say something more, an excruciating pain struck me. It turned out Song Tongxi had welded me to the pillar with a red-hot iron. It hurts so much. Wife, please don't do this. I'll stand properly. I screamed and begged through tears, and there were several moments when I thought the pain would kill me. Yinzhou got burned while cooking for you. Only by experiencing pain yourself can you truly understand his intentions. But getting burned while cooking could never compare to being branded with red-hot iron. Besides, why did his cooking taste like cheap ready-made meals? Song Tongxi's actions were no different from nailing me in place. Drenched in sweat from the pain, I said in a disappointed tone, Song Tongxi, let's get divorced. Song Tongxi gave me a deep look. Shen Zhuxian, think about your sister. She's still in solitary confinement under my orders. I froze as if struck by lightning. How could she threaten me with my only family? Seeing that I stopped protesting, Song Tongxi was very satisfied. She turned around and gently coaxed Bai Yinzhou. Continue now. He won't move around and mess things up anymore. A bitter smile appeared at the corner of my mouth. She probably didn't know yet that Bai Yinzhou, who had his back turned to her, had switched to real bullets. After my sister Shin Yuning and I lost our parents, we relied on each other and went to an orphanage. Once, Shin Yuning disobeyed me and mischievously went out to play, but got stuck when touching the high-voltage electric fence. In my panic, I directly pulled her and was also struck by the strong electric current. No one around dared to come forward, except Song Tongxi, who was passing by. She rescued my sister and me like a descending deity. Thank you, big sister. After this, I want to become a firefighter like you. So cool. I'm not a firefighter. I'm a mercenary. Don't follow my path. Study hard and stay on the right track. My sister and I tried hard to remember Song Tongxi's face. My sister vowed to follow her, while I secretly vowed to marry her. Although I always knew that White Yinzhou remained in her heart, I still believed that true love could move her. After being Song Tongxi's devoted admirer for 7 years, I finally became her husband. Before my eyes, the scene of her embracing White Yinzhou and teaching him how to shoot made my heart ache terribly. She had taught me the same way before, though I actually didn't need her teaching. My father is a world-class assassin, and my sister and I grew up immersed in that environment. We're quite good shots ourselves. All these years, I haven't touched a gun, just quietly following her. When she was injured, I would dress her wounds. When necessary, I even stood in front of her to take knives and bullets. Last time, I was actually the one who saved her. She was ambushed and fell unconscious, but when she woke up, Bai Yinzhou was by her side. He took credit for my deed. Only because Bai Yinzhou's father was a high-ranking official in their organization and promised that if I let him take the credit, Song Tongxi would receive the best treatment. I had no interest in worldly fame and fortune, so I agreed immediately, not wanting to delay her treatment. To stay close to her and thank her, I had always been hiding my abilities. When she woke up and found that her first love Bai Yinzhou had returned, she never had eyes for me again. I was so foolish. I never thought that one day, her gun would be pointed at me. I closed my eyes in despair. My sister was still in her hands. I had to hold on. As my consciousness gradually blurred, inappropriate sounds of passion unexpectedly reached my ears. I struggled to open my eyes and saw the two of them kissing passionately. Shinju Xian, don't misunderstand. I'm just helping Yinzhou improve his shooting focus. You don't need to pretend to be so hurt. Yinzhou was using an air gun. It can't actually harm anyone. Bai Yinzhou had already taken off half his clothes, shoulders bare, still bearing Sang Tangxi's marks. I was powerless to respond, only begging for it to end quickly. At least my heart hadn't been shot. I could still live. My clothes were largely stained with blood, the bullet holes clearly visible, deep and large. Bai Yinzhou complained angrily. I don't dare shoot anymore. Brother Zhu Xian probably doesn't want to be a target. He's already coughing blood in protest. My aim is very accurate. I clearly didn't hit him, yet he's being so dramatic. Song Tangxi gently stroked his head, comforting him. Don't worry, you're fine. Another shot. Fortunately, it went wide. The wooden board beside me exploded with a bang. Large pieces of wood flew rapidly toward my chest. The intense, dull pain clearly reminded me that at least 3 ribs were broken. I started pleading again. Honey, my chest hurts badly. I might have broken some ribs. I need to go to the hospital. A flash of panic crossed Song Tongxi's eyes. As she started to get up, Bai Yinzhou held her back. Sister Tongxi, that shot missed again. Looks like another penalty is due. Translation omitted for content. I weakly called out to Song Tongxi, but my attention was diverted once again. Ouch, that hurts. Bai Yinzhou held his reddened palm, and Song Tongxi immediately went to him. The recoil must have been too strong. Try a different one. She gently massaged Bai Yinzhou's palm, even blowing on it softly to soothe it. Meanwhile, she let the wooden board fall on me. Though my body was in pain, my heart hurt even more. Zhou Ting, who worked under Song Tongxi, rushed over when she saw I was injured. Bai Yinzhou, you're shooting at a living person? The organization strictly prohibits such non-compliant behavior. She shouted at Bai Yinzhou at the shooting range. Stop immediately. Go confess to the boss and accept punishment, or don't blame me for being harsh. Song Tongxi put down Bai Yinzhou's hand and smiled coldly. Zhou Ting, don't speak before understanding the situation. They're foam bullets, just shooting practice, not real ammunition. Zhou Ting kept approaching me, shocked by the wounds on my body. Sister Shi, look carefully. Brother Zhu Xian is covered in wounds, and Bai Yinzhou actually claims these were made by foam bullets. She's not practicing at all. She's trying to kill someone. Brother Zhu Xian is still recovering from a fracture. How can she be so heartless? She became increasingly agitated and actually pulled out a gun from her pocket, pointing it at Song Tongxi. Please stop him. A flash of shock crossed Song Tongxi's eyes. Zhou Ting, who had always followed her loyally, was now pointing a gun at her. No matter how much I hated Song Tongxi, I couldn't bear to see her executed. With tears in my eyes, I begged Zhou Ting to lower her gun. Zhou Ting, calm down, don't be rash. You have family. There's no need to offend her because of me. Song Tongxi lifted her chin slightly, signaling that she could still speak and was fine. See? If we had used real guns, Shen Zhuxian would have been dead already. The fact that he can still speak up for me shows he's fine. I told you not to worry. Zhou Ting stared in disbelief at Song Tongxi's words and spat on the ground. He's covered in blood. Can't you see how bad he looks? Was that just foam ammunition, given how strong the recoil was from Bai Yinzhou's gun? Bai Yinzhou's face turned pale, and he immediately became flustered, looking at Song Tongxi speechlessly. Fortunately, Song Tongxi made an excuse for her. Even if that shot was real bullets just now, it only hit the wooden board, without touching Shin Zhuxian at all. Do you think I'm stupid? Do I need you to tell me about my husband's condition? Can't I tell for myself? Just as Zhou Ting was at her wit's end, hesitating to speak, Bai Yanzhou fired another shot. I closed my eyes to brace for it, but the expected pain never came. A muffled groan sounded in her ear, and Zhou Ting was hit in the abdomen, collapsing to the ground. In pain. Blood slowly oozed from the wound. How can Bai Yanzhou say, this is a foam bullet? Song Tangxi scoffed. Pretend. Just keep pretending. Here comes another one. Xin Zhuxian, the actors you hired are better than your acting skills. I stared into Bai Yanzhou's eyes. Whatever you have against me is fine, just don't hurt innocent people. Bai Yanzhou put down the gun, looking at me with tears in his eyes. How can Brother Zhuxian say that? How can this hurt someone? Even if you and Zhou Ting are acting passionately, you can't just slander people like that. She turned her head to look at Song Tangxi again. Sister Tangxi, there are 4 bullets left, can I continue? Of course, Yanzhou, you're a genius. You've improved a lot compared to the past few days. It seems we really need to use real people as targets. She squinted at me, who was almost passing out from pain, then looked at Zhou Ting. We won't need Xin Zhuxian tomorrow. Zhou Ting, since you're so protective of him, you can stand there in his place from now on. Zhou Ting sneered with disdain. Fine, I'll stand there. I'm still better than someone who makes her husband take bullets. Song Tangxi smiled faintly after hearing this. Indeed, Zhou Ting, you've exposed yourself. Since when did you start having feelings for your brother-in-law? Is that why you haven't gotten married all these years? I sighed helplessly, knowing Zhou Ting was protecting me because I had helped her before. During that ambush where Song Tangxi was injured, Zhou Ting only suffered minor wounds because she retreated in time and managed to keep the remaining people safe. She was falsely accused of being a deserter, traitor, and coward. I stopped her from using a gun to prove her innocence, and after being saved, she hugged me tightly while crying. This scene was witnessed by Song Tangxi and Bai Yanzhou. Bai Yanzhou maliciously implied that Zhou Ting and I were having an affair. Zhou Ting has kept away from men all these years. Turns out she was deeply infatuated with Brother Zhuxian. Brother Zhuxian even stood against everyone to help a traitor. I guess the feelings were mutual. Song Tangxi's eyes looked pale and weak. I thought it was because she hadn't fully recovered from her illness. Little did I know she believed it all, and forcefully pushed away my supporting hand. The real-life argument pulled me back from my memories. Brother Zhuxian and I are innocent. The simple and clumsy Zhou Ting shouted out the truth, but the 2 people on stage remained unconvinced. Is that so? Let's see just how innocent you are. Song Tangxi raised her eyebrow at Bai Yanzhou, who immediately understood and once again pointed his gun at me. Zhou Ting's face was filled with fear as she stared at Song Tangxi in disbelief. Having just been shot herself, she naturally knew the power of gunpowder. So when Bai Yanzhou pulled the trigger, she used all her strength to lunge toward me, taking the bullet aimed at my chest. I was restrained and desperately wanted to reach out to help her, but could only watch helplessly as she was shot and fell to the ground. From their perspective, it looked like Zhou Ting had embraced me intimately at the last moment. Her innocence was proven by taking a bullet for him, while acting all sincere and blameless. My gun even helped unite you 2 star-crossed lovers. Instincts don't lie. Even in practice, she'd risk everything. Xin Zhuxian, you're really something. Even a traitor is captivated by you. I looked at the woman before me, not understanding how she had become so ignorant and foolish. The filter through which I once saw her saving my sister and me shattered in that moment. As Bai Yanzhou raised his gun once again, Zhou Ting cried with blood dripping from her mouth. I'm sorry, Brother Zhuxian, this is all I can do to help you. They are truly beyond saving. This time, the bullet hit my right hand. Instantly, the tendons in my hand snapped, and pain and numbness swept through my entire left arm. I knew Bai Yanzhou had discovered that I was the marksman who saved Song Tangxi back then. He wanted to destroy my skill, to ensure I could never hold a gun again in my life. To solidify his image as the savior who descended from the heavens. I pulled my lips into a bitter smile. 2 more shots, hurry up. Song Tangxi, if you discovered that I was the one who saved you, would you regret it? Bai Yanzhou, as if provoked by me, pulled the trigger without hesitation. This shot landed on my lower body. Instantly, I widened my eyes, looking at her with hatred. He knew full well that Song Tangxi had a miscarriage before, and it would be difficult for us to have children again. Now he was making sure I would never have descendants. I couldn't hold back anymore and burst into tears. He hurt me elsewhere, I wouldn't have minded. But I still wanted to have the fruit of love with Song Tangxi. For a man, the most precious thing was shattered by Yanzhou's shot. The pain intensified, and I felt a warm flow pass below. Blood poured down heavily, and Song Tangxi looked at me with a pale and shocked face, full of concern. Would she feel heartbroken seeing me so badly wounded? I wondered tearfully. Then Song Tangxi started clapping. Nice shot, legendary. She gave Bai Yanzhou a thumbs up like a reward, ignoring the blood gradually seeping between my legs. Bai Yanzhou shyly mumbled. Sister Tangxi, didn't Brother Zhuxian say he was healthy? How? How come he's urinating blood? Was he deceiving you? Song Tangxi frowned in disgust while staring at my waist. Even you can see through it. These are his shameful tricks. Bai Yanzhou gently said, Sister Tangxi, it's indeed not dignified for Zhu Xian to have blood in his urine. All over the ground, especially with Zhou Ting by his side. I'll go help him clean up. It's inconvenient for you as a lady. Song Tangxi looked at Bai Yanzhou with gratitude. You're just too kind-hearted, always thinking about everyone. Zhu Xian has always been sloppy, so I thank you on his behalf for being so thoughtful and considerate. Bai Yanzhou walked to my side and forcefully dug his hand into my wound. I was in so much pain I could barely breathe. He said viciously, Even if you live, you're just a eunuch. You'll never be worthy of Sister Tangxi. I lost all my strength, couldn't even cry. He returned to the shooting platform, pouting helplessly. What era is it? And Zhu Xian is still pretending to be sick to gain favor. This is too scheming. And even faking so much blood, trying to attract Sister's attention with a miscarriage, you must not fall for it. Song Tangxi coldly smiled and nodded, patting Bai Yanzhou's shoulder. Come on, it's the last bullet. I reached the edge of unconsciousness. My fertility was gone. I only hoped White Yanzhou would quickly sentence me to death. Sure enough, with a bang, the last bullet hit my heart. Before completely closing my eyes, I saw Song Tangxi, who was about to walk towards me, being held back by White Yanzhou again. Sister Tangxi, my head is so dizzy. The fake blood they used was poor quality. The formaldehyde exceeded the standard. I think I've been poisoned into leukemia. At this moment, Song Tangxi's face was anxious, furiously preparing to come down and question me. A running figure appeared at the shooting range. Brother, my sister, who was in solitary confinement, sensing my pain, broke through the confinement barriers and came to my side. She used a chainsaw to loosen my restraints and held me while crying her eyes out. On the other side, Song Tangxi frowned in displeasure, having to tend to White Yanzhou who had fainted in her arms, carrying him on her back as she ran to the hospital. Am I dying, Sister Tangxi? I feel my whole blood boiling. I might not make it through tonight. Song Tangxi's ice-cold face showed unprecedented tension. Yanzhou, you'll be fine. If you get even a finger hurt, I'll make that scheming Shin Zhuxian pay with his life. Bai Yanzhou's expression was smug yet tender. Saving you has been the greatest honor of my life. Dying in your arms would be worth it. After saying this, he pretended his last words were spoken, a tear rolling down from the corner of his eye, his hand falling from Song Tangxi's face. Don't leave me. Yanzhou, I beg you don't go. Song Tangxi broke down crying in the hospital room, holding Bai Yanzhou tightly and refusing to let go. The doctor beside them quietly wiped his sweat. Ma'am, we only gave Mr. Bai a sedative. There's nothing wrong with his body. It might just be psychological anxiety. Just as Song Tangxi had a sigh of relief, Zhou Ting burst into the hospital room, full of anger. Bai Yanzhou, you murderer, why are you still alive? I want to kill you. She pulled Bai Yanzhou up from the hospital bed. You deliberately shot at Zhu Xuan's heart during target practice. Why don't you just die? Just as the knife was about to stab her, Bai Yanzhou on the hospital bed finally dropped his act. I'm so scared, Sister Tangxi. Zhu Xian sent someone to kill me. Song Tangxi from the payment counter immediately rushed into the ward and got into a fight with Zhou Ting. Song Tangxi punched Zhou Ting in the chest. Watch your mouth. How many times do I have to repeat that no one has harmed Shin Zhuxian? Zhou Ting stood her ground, returning a punch to Song Tangxi. My injuries are real. If I hadn't been wearing a bulletproof vest, I wouldn't be alive now to avenge Brother Zhuxian. I used to respect you and call you Sister Shi, but now you only deserve to be called an animal. For such a worthless person, you could hurt your husband and comrades so severely. You're worse than an animal. Song Tangxi grabbed Zhou Ting's collar, staring at her face to face. Do you dare to claim you have no feelings at all for Shin Zhuxian? For him, you defied your superiors and ruined your career. Congratulations, you're fired. Don't come back to the Corps anymore. For him, I only feel gratitude for saving my life. You think everyone is like you, giving their whole heart to another man. Fine, don't come then. I've long wanted to stay away from someone like you who can't tell right from wrong. It's truly disgusting. In front of both of them, she took off her military uniform, including the bulletproof vest underneath. The bloody bullet wound was shocking to see. After all, they were once comrades. Song Tangxi looked at Zhou Ting with confusion and concern. What happened? Who did this? Anyone who dares hurt my people will pay with their life. Song Tangxi turned over Zhou Ting's back. Having served in the military for over 20 years, she had never seen anyone with such severe injuries. Who could it be? It was done by your white that you coached. What? You don't even dare to look carefully. Are you consciously ashamed? What's on my body is a small matter. The wounds on Brother Zhuxuan's body are unbearable to look at. Moreover, he wasn't even wearing a bulletproof vest. As she spoke, She pulled out 2 bullets from inside her collar. You don't know yet, do you? Your beloved Bai Yanzhou secretly replaced the foam bullets with lime bullets. If Shun Zhuxian doesn't make it this time, she's a murderer, and you're an accomplice. You'll watch your own husband get executed. Song Tongxi could barely hide her panicked expression. She abruptly turned to look at Bai Yanzhou. Did you really switch the bullets? No, I didn't. It's fake. They're all framing me. They all want to see me fail the assessment and get sent to northern Myanmar. They're acting too convincingly, Sister Tongxi. I can understand if you've been bewitched by them. I'm willing to wait for you to return from your misguided path. Zhou Ting sneered. Whether it's true or false, why don't you go and see for yourself? The moment Song Tongxi turned around, Bai Yanzhou once again called out about wanting to die and such, hoping she would stay. Be good and listen. I'll go check on Zhu Xian. He still has old injuries. Wait for me. I'll definitely come back. Song Tongxi called me over 100 times, but I didn't answer any of them. Unable to contact me, she could only run to the shooting range to look for clues. She stood at the bullseye, stepping in sticky blood. She even crouched down to touch it. As a top mercenary, how could she not know whether this was real or fake blood? In an instant, it was as if all strength left her body and she fell to her knees. How can there be so much blood? There clearly wasn't this much before. Shen Zhuxian, are you playing tricks on me again? Shen Zhuxian, you must have poured this on the ground afterwards. You'll really stop at nothing to make me feel guilty. Just then, her phone started ringing. Sister Tongxi, I don't have any spare underwear, and Brother Zhuxuan's are all too small. They don't fit my size. Bai Yanzhou contacted our housekeeper to send him a bunch of my clothes, but he complained about and cut up every piece. Could you bring me one when you come back to the hospital later? I need the largest. Unprecedented. Song Tongxi hung up the phone before he could finish. She walked onto the shooting platform expressionlessly, her mind full of analyzing today's situation. Did Bai Yanzhou really tamper with the bullets behind her back? When? Why didn't she notice? Shen Zhuxian wasn't wearing a bulletproof vest? Then how is his condition now? Do his old wounds hurt? She took out the gun used today, without needing to look closely. Her fingertip lightly brushed over the muzzle, and she knew Bai Yanzhou was hit with hydroshock rounds. The god of death within bullets. Under the moonlight, Song Tongxi's beautiful face grew increasingly grim. She rushed to the monitoring room in one swift move to check today's complete recording from the shooting range. When she welded me in place, Bai Yanzhou, who pretended to leave, secretly switched the bullets. The color drained from her face, and she looked terrified, because she also saw Bai Yanzhou replace the bulletproof vest with a poor-quality plastic version. And at that time, trusting both of them, I didn't question her and casually put it on. She knew the feeling of dum-dum bullets hitting the body. One bullet is enough to take a life, and I endured dozens of them alive. There was an inescapable anxiety and worry between Song Tongxi's brows. Just then, her phone rang again. He caller turned out to be Shun Zhuxian. She answered the video call with surprise and joy. Zhuxian, are you all right? The person on the other end was Shun Yuning, her eyes swollen and red, unable to hide her disgust and hatred. What do you think? When Shun Yuning spoke, her voice was endlessly hoarse. Sister-in-law, no, Song Tongxi, you monster, I'll never forgive you even in death. You're absolutely inhuman, worse than beasts. As proud as Song Tongxi was, at this moment she was scolded speechless. Isn't it because I discovered you cheating behind my brother's back, and you can find me, which is one thing. But why do you have to torture my brother? Even if he was angry, you could divorce him, you could tell my brother to leave. Why did you shoot him so many times? Shen Yuning howled desperately to vent. Can I see him again? Impossible. He is now. Before finishing her words, Shen Yuning hung up the phone, because she feared she couldn't control the urge to kill. After being ruthlessly rejected, Song Tongxi called Zhou Ting. Bring Bai Yanzhou over. At night, Bai Yanzhou was tied up by Song Tongxi at the shooting range. Like me, welded to the target post. Are you crazy? Song Tongxi, how could you do this to me? It hurts so much, please stop. Molten iron was poured onto his arms and ankles. Screams of agony pierced the sky, yet Song Tongxi seemed not to hear them. Too noisy, Zhuxian wasn't as talkative as you. She poured another mouthful of scalding molten iron into Bai Yanzhou's mouth, making him tremble in pain. At 20 years old, I brought 18-year-old Shun Yuning to find Song Tongxi. Sister, I want to follow you, my brother. He wants to protect you. I tried everything to get close to Song Tongxi, encouraging her when she was down, offering my body to celebrate when she was happy. My sister completed mercenary training and became her bodyguard. At first, I didn't know Bai Yanzhou existed. But Bai Yanzhou used the excuse that he had admired Song Tongxi for a long time, that she was lured away by me, and left the country heartbroken. From then on, Song Tongxi's attitude toward me changed. She believed that I had driven Bai Yanzhou away, someone who grew up in the mercenary group since childhood. Someone without guile, while I was a calculating sinner of historic proportions. No matter how I explained, she wouldn't believe a single word. She forced me to kneel, grabbed my head, and slammed it violently against the ground, just to make an apology video for Bai Yanzhou, expressing her deep love for him. I was drowning in my own bubble of unrequited love by her side, unable to break free. One day, after being blocked and deleted by Bai Yanzhou again, she came to me in a drunken state and held me tightly. Shen Zhuxian, didn't you say you loved me desperately? Here's your chance to marry me. Her kiss. SES fell across my body, filling me with excitement. She never kissed me before, always going straight to fulfilling physical needs. All night, I was immersed in joy and excitement. But at the peak of desire, she held me and softly whispered Yanzhou in my ear. At that moment, I was thunderstruck, and after several seconds of daze, I pretended not to mind and held her in my arms. After that day, we got married, but she never touched me when sober after the wedding. I believe that one day, she will look at me. Although I know she hates me, hates that Bai Yanzhou left her because of me. She was demanding towards me without restraint, rough and direct. Soon after our marriage, she became pregnant. When she was just 3 months pregnant, Bai Yanzhou returned. Song Tongxi asked me to prepare many dishes I wasn't good at making to host him. To avoid making her unhappy, I studied online tutorials for a long time and finally managed to cook them. Bai Yanzhou took just one bite, then complained about the taste, threw down his chopsticks and left. Song Tongxi scolded me angrily. You don't need to be so obvious about disliking her. Who are you showing that sour face to? I told her crying that the doctor said her pregnancy was unstable. I was worried inside and couldn't force a smile. But Song Tongxi thought I was being dramatic and couldn't prioritize what's important. I held back, avoiding arguments with her that might hurt our relationship or affect her pregnancy. She didn't come home all night. But Bai Yanzhou pinned a new post on his Weibo. Wine-red nails left trails of scratches on a muscular man's back. The caption is equally captivating. Charging through her body gives me a bigger rush than defeating enemies. At midnight, Song Tongxi sent a WeChat message. Baby, wishing you happiness beyond just your birthday. I sat trembling in the living room all night. The next day, she asked me to bring fresh clothes to her at the base. Bai Yanzhou reached out to take them, revealing to me the extensive marks from last night's passion. I ignored it and turned to leave. But Song Tongxi stopped me and handed me something. The pregnancy is unstable, and there's no need to keep a weak fetus. I've already had an abortion at the hospital. Here's the child, take it back with you. I knew the child was lost because she played too roughly last night. Heartbroken, I took the embryo, planning to bury it. But the embryo was snatched away by Bai Yanzhou's dog and eaten in one gulp. I broke down crying hysterically, but Song Tongxi was indifferent. Yanzhou's dog isn't in good health. The child is already dead. Might as well let Kaylay have some nourishment. I went to chase the dog, but the dog was commanded by Bai Yanzhou to bite me. It hurts so much, my whole body is covered in wounds. I desperately tried to shake it off, but it kept biting me frantically. Ah, save. Me, Song Tongxi, please. Brother, wake up, it's okay, it's okay. I'm here, I'm right here. Shin Yuning held and comforted me as I finally regained consciousness on the hospital bed. I thought you would never wake up again. I was so scared. Please don't leave me, okay? I stared blankly at my surroundings, realizing I had survived that dog attack. This time it was a new kind of pain, but both were caused by Song Tongxi and Bai Yanzhou. Sister, can we leave her? Let's not think about her anymore. The her Shen Yuning mentioned, without saying it explicitly, we both knew who it was. I managed a bitter smile. Okay. According to Shen Yuning, I had been in a coma for 3 whole months. Fortunately, my heart is on the right side, otherwise I would have really been shot dead by Bai Yanzhou. I suffered multiple comminuted fractures and severe organ damage, and could barely walk even after being bedridden for half a year. My sister found the world's top doctors who helped restore my reproductive function. After discharge, my sister and I used the money we earned over the years to travel around the world to heal our hearts. Over these years, my sister has been completely loyal to Song Tongxi, charging into battle and even taking enemy attacks for her multiple times. She merely discovered Song Tongxi and Bai Yanzhou intimately entangled behind my back, and in her anger, wanted to confront them on my behalf, but was confined by Song Tongxi. When she finally escaped, she found me barely clinging to life. I desperately stopped my sister from seeking mutual destruction with Song Tongxi. There's no need. She saved us before, so let's leave it at that. We're even now. Looking at the resolution and calmness in my eyes, Shin Yuning promised that if Song Tongxi ever hurt me again, she wouldn't let her off easily. Look, there's actually bamboo in Africa too. You just found out? There are some in the Americas too. Our next stop is Brazil. Shin Yuning and I arrived at the bamboo forest in eastern Sudan, amazed at how tall these bamboo plants were. As I touched each vigorously growing bamboo stalk, I remembered my mother's words. Zhuxian, You must be resilient like this bamboo. Never feared difficulties. With tears in my eyes, I pressed against the bamboo, missing my mother terribly. Suddenly, I felt a thin engraving. Looking closer, I discovered it was my name. Zhu Xian. I was shocked and curious. Who? Xin Yuning also noticed something unusual and turned to look at me. This knife mark and handwriting. Who else could it be but Song Tongxi? Why? While I was still confused, a familiar voice spoke. Zhu Xian, you finally came. After a year apart, Song Tongxi's appearance hadn't changed much, but her demeanor was no longer as confident and carefree as before. With reddened eyes, she said softly, I knew you were still alive. How have you been all this time? I turned my head away to show I didn't want to deal with her, but she kept coming closer, and I frowned and stepped back. Xin Yuning stepped forward to block her. How dare you show your face before us? You censored. Get away. Xin Yuning shouted at Song Tongxi without restraint. Song Tongxi wisely backed away. Zhu Xian, I avenged you. Bai Yanzhou was killed by me using the gun he used to shoot you. Her voice was slightly choked. It's my fault. I shouldn't have treated you like a live target. I was too scared that Bai Yanzhou would leave again. In the past, I made him suffer abroad. If he goes to Myanmar again because of me, I might never forgive myself. Xin Yuning mockingly said, Do you only feel guilty about your own white moonlight? Even if my brother hadn't been injured this time, his previous life was 1,000 times more painful than Bai Yanzhou's every single day. Zhu Xian, let me explain. She got emotional and tried to come closer to me again. I used to feel guilty towards him because I thought he was my lifesaver. However, after my investigation, I discovered that you were the one who saved me. I was blind and mistook everything. I deserve to die. Will you forgive me this time? I still want to be with you. Xin Yuning held back her disgust. You have so many excuses for your infidelity. Does being a lifesaver give you permission to sleep with him? No, I didn't. That was Bai Yanzhou deliberately spreading rumors to anger you and win over you. I smiled softly. Actually, it doesn't matter anymore. I don't care. So whoever you're with, whoever you execute, it has nothing to do with me. If she won't leave, then I will. I pulled my sister, who was red with anger. She couldn't understand at all why I was so calm when I was the one who was hurt. When love is gone, there are no emotions left. Not even hatred? I nodded. Yes, love and hate are opposites. Nowadays, Song Tongxi is to me just like strangers we encounter when my sister and I travel around the world. The persistent Song Tongxi stopped me again while we were shopping. I still want to do something for you, Zhu Xian. Can you give me one more chance? Xin Yuning was about to pull me away, but I waved my hand and pondered. Do you remember those 5 words I said when you kidnapped me? Endless despair washed over Song Tongxi's eyes. I think she understood my meaning. I can't be apart from you. I'll die. During this time without you by my side, I truly couldn't go on living. Zhu Xian, please give me one more chance, just one. This time I'll protect you with everything I have. She clung to me emotionally, enduring Xin Yuning's insults and blows. She wouldn't let go no matter what. She stared intently at my face, waiting for my response. 7 years of marriage, 1 death, and 1 serious injury. Please rest. CT me. I gently shook my head. She then released me like a deflated balloon. A bitter smile spread across his handsome face. Fine. Some days later, when Xin Yuning and I returned home after buying groceries, we received a letter at the door. The signed divorce agreement, along with all property transfer instructions. In the letter, there was only 1 sentence. I love you, thousands upon thousands of times. I turned and arranged to donate all of Song Tongxi's money. One day, Xin Yuning showed me the latest legal news on her phone. Top mercenary Song found dead from hundreds of gunshot wounds. Suicide in African bamboo forest.